So friends, what I want to show you now is how we created all these information, which sources I used, and what has been done so far in terms of fertilizers use. So not making a mystery of all this information, but I respect the other data people use, but I prefer to construct my own analysis. So that's I trust on other experts, but mainly in the official information that we have here available in Brazil. So we improved a lot, and what we are going to see is just for you to understand from where to get this information and do yourself your own database. But you can buy, or you can ask us support about fertilization use fertilization use in Brazil. The goal was to understand the dependency on imports that we have in Brazil and insights for any strategic plan for any company willing to work in Brazil. So I hope that you understand where and how to take this information. Okay, so the first database, as you see in blue at the left here, is the COMEX statistics, COMEX stat, an online database in English and Portuguese. You also do have it in English. And what we do with this information. So we can get and extract imports and exports. We can see that by item imported accordingly to the NCM. It is a nomenclature of codification that we do use in Mercosul, and it is also kind of international. We do have other options, but I prefer to use this as the unit, the base unit of this COMEXstat data. So we have by year, we do have it by month, and we have it as a basic cell of our data information. Then we do have our experience here, in which we can classify all these NCMs, and we can organize and make some necessary adjustments in the data structure. You don't feel it, but this is a lot of work. We are not talking about we are talking about hundreds and hundred thousands of data. We do have it available for almost 2 decades, and we do have that by months, and we can really rebate this information according to our classification. So the tabuli classification, tabuli is the name of our company. It is we separate, in this case of fertilizers, we separate what are the so-called nitrogenous fertilizers, phosphoric fertilizers, and potassic fertilizers. So we buy all these products by weight, not by the content of the element, or neither the substance, but we do that a kind of rebate in which we can identify which elements are we buying, or exporting, and we can see the substance equivalent like potassium dioxide, phosphoric pentoxide, and nitrogen itself. So we then get here the average FOB prices calculation. And that's a very important, very reliable information, since we can see not only by item, but we can see it by country and other information. So we can really understand the consistency of the FOB prices which we are paying in Brazil. Okay, so when you join the COMEX statistic data, the imports and exports, and rebating that with tabulate classification, then we can achieve here these database, I call it here, the COMEX reclassified database. There we can see the weight imported, can also see the exported item, but it's not really relevant here. And then we can see the nitrogen equivalent, the phosphorus, and the potassium dioxide, the phosphorus pentoxide, and the phosphorus oxide, and the potassium oxide. So we can see here fertilizers, we can see the formulae that we have imported, and that's and then we start entering in a level of uncertainty in which we minimize with our intelligence in which are the formulas that we have, which we are importing. So here we at the end we can see here in the left the report is we can see the nutrient, the macronutrient content and the average of nitrogenous fertilizers, phosphatic fertilizers, and the potassic fertilizers. So it's really interesting to see the price that we are paying for each ton of fully nitrogen and the content of the phosphoric pentoxide and potassium dioxide. So it's really interesting. It's important to say that I have been using these informations not as structured as I do have today since 2010, I believe, the first calculations. So it's very important to understand what is the content, the substance that you are paying for in which form of fertilizers. So here, then we move right now to two different databases. The first database I would call in green here, the CONAB Harvest database. CONAB is a company in charge of the they have a large distribution centers of food, cash harvest, and like all the vegetables and things that a city needs, but also they collect all the main crop harvest data that we have in Brazil. So it is a highly reliable source of information, and it's not really. They do have a frequency of publication not so late. They have tempestive data publications. So each 3 months they have a forecast for the the crops and the harvest that you're going to have in Brazil. They publish in a very large database the production, area, and yields in terms of kilograms per hectare, but also they have it by state of the country, which is very helpful to understand the profile of our production. So they have a full year accumulation. It's always a full year accumulation. Even the forecast, they don't do it by months, or as far as I know, they don't have it. But they publish the last harvest, and they publish the full year accumulation for the current crop. So we always can have a good view, outlook of what is going to happen. And then we use as well, and here you see in orange, the IP&I, Nutrients Database. So a few words about IP&I, ipni.net, you can see they are experts, agricultural, kind of scientific global network. I don't know whether they are still publishing, but the last publications they have, I think, was a couple of 2-3 years ago. But they have a very good information about nutrients data, much better than use data from IARA and Mosaic published in order to understand nutrients need by crop. The IP&I, they did some studies regarding the concentration, but also the biological fixation factors in soya culture, for example, and other reductions, so we can understand the extraction of nutrients from the soil, and we can reduce it, and then we can see the theoretical need of fertilizers by each one of the main macronutrients. And that's very interesting because they have been publishing what they call the desfrute, but actually it is a fertilizers use efficiency. I think that what they are publishing, or they were publishing, were a little bit sensitive to the majority of the agricultural big players in Brazil, but the fact that there is a lack of efficiency, which I comment in other video. So the IP&I did an excellent job, and I have been following them. You can see that you can't understand the nitrogen imports and the need of nitrogen imports without understand the soya biological fixation reductions, which are very important. Otherwise, we would have been importing 4 or 5 times more than what we really need. That's not the case, so that's why they do that, these analysis. So I hope you don't find it boring, but so you can see that putting the IP&I nutrients data and expertise face-to-face to the CONAB database is not a very easy task. It needs a little bit of work. I would say a lot of work and management of the data set. So when we do that, we have the first problem is that the IP&I data are based on the Governmental Geographical Institute, the IBGE, and CONAB has a different selection of crops, which I think are much more useful than the IBGE. But anyway, I don't want to understand, I don't want to explain why the IP&I do not use the CONAB harvest data. The CONAB harvest data are much more solid. And here, when we reach this blue database here, IP&I CONAB database, you can see here all the crops that we have. We have the grain crops. We do have the winter crops, as we call them, and we do have the sugar cane in separate because it is not part of the grain, obviously, but it is part of our agricultural output, and that's a very important area market for imports. So here we do have the nutrients data by crop, by year, and we do have the exports after all these deductions which I mentioned. And the main deductions are related to nitrogen and in potassium due to the variances. These nutrients data, they are using the standards used by IP&I. In case of potassium, I would use a different concept for variances, because this is a topic which I know in detail how it works. Anyways, they use 20% of finance uses for the global. It doesn't work. Actually, it doesn't work for potassium. Despite the fact that 20% in average, it is not so bad. Then we do have, at the end of the day, what we do have is a huge set of analysis possible to make with these nutrients balance data. And as I mentioned, the main goal was to understand the fertilizers efficiency, the use of fertilizers efficiency, and to understand in more detail this dependency that we do have on fertilizers. So people, said so a little bit, that's how we use, and we made some conclusions regarding the use of fertilizers and how we treat information. And this is for sale in detail or for consultancy and courtesy for those who are really interested in understanding the market potential of fertilizers in Brazil. Thank you very much for your attention right now, and then I will show briefly some of the database and calculations done. Thank you.